Hey gang, Bangs here again. Today's project, tyres on the ct110 Postie bike. Definitely the tyres that I've got on here had a hard life, so we're going to replace them today. We're going to look at doing the front one first because that's easiest. I'll give you a show how we're doing that. We've got these dotted proof knobblies, which will be good for us on the rally. I just got these from the local bike shop, which is great. We're going to rip the front wheel off first, and I'll show you. We're going to do it the old school way with a set of tyre levers, and these take an inner tube. So, okay, let's crack on. Well, I've just got the floor jack there gently supporting the front of the bike under the frame here, just so it doesn't flop forward. The first thing we need to take care of is this screw here, which is the speedo cable. So we'll bring that all the way out, unscrew that all the way out. Generally you can just give this a bit of curry and it'll come out. There we go. Get that unwound from under there, pull that up through there, and I generally just do a bit of a tie job up there. Put this screw back in so we don't lose it. Then the next thing we're going to work on is the brake down here, and we're going to do a couple of things. So I generally just give things a little bit of a lube up, just to help things along, especially this adjustment thread here and that little piece of business there. Right, so that's all we're doing there. So first thing we'll do, we'll loosen off these adjusting screws. Now this here I'm using a 12, sometimes they're not a 12, there's something else, but generally 13, 12, 11 for around here. So I'm just backing these off so that's loosened up a little bit. I'm going to keep that top one where it is, right? Okay, and now this one over here is this little M10. We're going to undo this here. Now what you'll find is already here there's two marks on here. See the two marks, the two dots? We're gonna keep that as it is. Those two dots are there as a guide. All right, so it's no secret we have to come back and fix that, adjust that when we put this back on. But if you just take this all the way off, take that bolt out. All right, put that one back on there so we don't lose it. Give this a gentle wiggle off. You don't have to rotate that to keep it on the spline. There we go, beautiful. Now I tend to always take this right off, put it aside. Don't lose your spring. Put that gear aside over there. Right, and then normally this, we can undo this all the way down this thread here on this one, and that'll allow us to take this all the way out. And now the top nut, because we didn't change the top nut, is roughly in the right spot when we want to come back and wind this all the way down and get that nut off that thread. We can bring that up and get that clear where that cable is. Now I tend to always want to put that up out of the way as well. Get that up out of the way there. Okay, so now there's nothing really preventing us from taking the wheel off except this pinion and the bolt and the nut that holds the actual hub of the wheel on. Sometimes in here you can need more clearance and you'll have to take this guard off, but for today I'm highly confident we'll get that out in one piece. So we're taking this nut off, 14 mil on the bolt side and 19 mil on the nut side. I've got the rattle gun here, but you could quite easily do this with a spanner or a shifter or a breaker bar, but you know, here's easy. There's that off, happy days. Keep that in a safe place, like we're going to do with all that. And now what I've done in the past is just wind that nut back on gently and just give that a bit of a tap. Make sure she's loose. You probably should use a hammer there, but good on us. Now we're going to just take the pressure off there and gently pull that pinion out. There it is. Now there's a spacer on the other side that generally comes out. If we just give this, now we just put that back on there. So put the pinion out. There's a spacer on the far side here. We need to make sure we don't lose that when we pop the wheel out. And you'll see this groove here. We need to get this all the way clear of that groove, and also make sure we're just watching to make sure that you know, stuff doesn't come out of this brake hub when it comes out. So we're just going to lift the front of the bike up and pull that wheel out. There we go. There she goes. So we just, you know, that hub can come straight off. Right, so we just need to make sure we've not lost any bits in there. We'll come back and inspect these brake pack, but that looks pretty good for now. So we're going to set that aside, and then you having a look there to make sure that bearing's okay and that bearing's not going to fall out. There's our friend the spacer. That just pops right out of that seal on this side. So normally I just keep that over there. Get the air tank down and put the new rubber on. So the first thing we need to do is get the air out of this thing. Now, normally I'd recommend removing the valve seat, removing the valve to get all the air out, but I'm going to show you how we can do it if you're out in the bush and you don't have that. So I'm just going to push that valve in and let all the air out. The more air we can get out of this, the better. So you'll find that if you take that valve right out, it just lets every little bit of air out that you can get out, and that's a symptom of that's what normally happens when you go to put the tire back on, or you're taking it out. You pinch the tube because the tube is actually a little bit still inflated and it's still kind of round and puffy. So you can feel here, I'm opening the valve, pushing on the tube, and then letting the valve close again, and it's really getting rid of every little bit of air out of that tube as much as I can. Okay, it just about had enough now. What I've done in the past, again, you might be out in the field, take the rubber mallet, just work this around a bit. Right, don't give it too much curry, but just work that off its seat. Right. Again, you're out in the bush. You don't have your mallet. Just stand on it. You can already see that's starting to unseat from there, right? I want to make sure that's like that all the way around. And then I can still feel a bit of air in that tube. So I'm just going to continue to have that valve open, and I'm still pushing air out of that. There we go. So that's a fair bit of the air out. So now we've got our trusty tyre levers. We're going to use this little thin end to get in underneath and flip this backwards. Now, I'd already recommend doing it with this face down, not this ceiling face. Do it with this face. You've got more to lean on, and it makes the tyre flat against what you're doing. So we really need to try and get in here and try not to, just ever so gently, try not to get that tube. Now I can see the tube in there. So we're getting in under here, and we're getting the tyre. We're getting the tyre, but we're not getting the tube. Now, what you'll find is, you can sneak it back and loosen it up a little bit, and there should be a piece of rubber that goes around protecting the inner tube from the spokes. I can see that, and now I can see the inner tube. I'm just gently going to wiggle. It's all about the wiggle there, and I'm keeping an upward pressure. I'm just gently trying to find that piece of wire that goes around in the tube. Right, so I've got my tyre lever on there now. Now I just force that back this way. Right, loosen it up. Loosen up this next one. Right, this thing's had a hard life. I don't know if this tyre's been off in forever. I'm just loosening that up, going around and around, loosening it all up. Watching that I'm not pinching the inner tube. Right, I'll just loosen this up, loosen this off all the way around, just to make sure. You'll be surprised how much this makes a difference if you just loosen this off all the way around before you go try and rip your tyre off. Watching out for the inner tube there. There we go. There we go. Now I'll flip it over. Now I'm not having to work so hard, I can flip it over. And I'm just going to stretch that out as well a little bit. Right, there we go. So now we've got one in, and we've got a lot of the air out, and we've got it with the brake side down. Okay, and I can now see a bit of a gap in here. I've got my arm and my body resting on this, I'm just going to work and pick up a second bit of this, right? Okay, and now just going to work this. I'm going to work that second one around, right? I'm just going to keep working that around. Keep working it. Keep working it, and you'll get to a point where it gets really, really hard, but eventually it comes off, right? So, there we go. Now they almost stay on there, right? So, once you've got a significant part of this off the rim, right, on the front, there's a little piece here where the bead, the inside bead of the rubber of the tyre is that solid bead, is not sitting flush in the valley of the rim. It's on like a 45 on its way down there. That's this portion here, right? So it's tight inside the rim, it's above the rim, and there's a piece on the 45 in here. That's the next piece you need to pick up. So you get the little skinny end. There will be room in there. You can't really see it, but there'll be room in there to get the end of that tool. There it is. So there's room in there to get that tool, because it's like a bit of a halfway point. Now I'm going to do the same. So now we've got a fair bit off. You'll find, don't be trying to get that other lever in down here on the sides, you'll never get it in. Now if you started with 3 or 4 levers, you put them in, you can go 3 or 4 because that little piece is already in, but you're never gonna get there. So now there's mostly enough, it's getting to a point where it's just gonna slide off. So now I can come around and start to slide it off, get it up and over the rim there. There we go, it's coming now. Now we can make, sometimes you can just rip these up, like this. Right. Sometimes the fat end's best. Get that in there, keep that moving up. Keep moving around the tyre. There we go, okay. Now we can look to take out our valve. Our friend, trusted friend, the 12mm. I can have taken that locking ring off. There we go. It's stuck on some gunk there. Now we're all the way off. There we go. Now, I always try to start at the opposite end here and pull this bladder out like this. There just seems to be more room. And I pull that out, then I push that in, because you've got room to you've got room to lever it up and away like that. There we go. Beautiful. So there's that out. Now, there is rust and junk all over this thing. I think we did a pretty good job. I don't think we pinched the tube, but you can see there's like rust stuck to it, right? This thing's all rusty right in here. Look how rusty that is in there. So it's a shocker, right? Okay, that's all rusty. So we're gonna bin that anyway, right? I've got spare ones there. So, spare ones here. These are a V rubber, 100% natural, heavy duty motorcycle tyre, 275 317. So they go from 275 all the way up to 300. Yeah, 275 all the way up to 300. So 17 inch, that's great. And they're heavy duty, which is great. So it's going to be pretty much the same process, but now it's like a little bit easier to work with. So I've got to get that in there, and I can see that other one poking out the corner here, right? So it's going to be the same process. But what I want to do, I'll get this same 2 in place here, right? So first of all, and I'm going to get this one as far away from that one as I can. Now I'm going to pull these over. Alright, so I can probably go a little bit further there. Alright, oh, missed it. Got it, yep, beautiful. Almost. There it comes, it's coming now. Yep, beautiful. Now, sometimes you can just manhandle this, push on the rim and pull this outside one. But, no, there it comes. Easier said than done. There we go. Oh, look at that. The shit that's fell out of that. That's crazy. So we got that off. This one's had its day. See you later. I'm gonna get the new one. So like I was saying before, these are DOT approved, which is that I've always assumed it's just the Department of Transport, but I'm assuming that's what it is. So, get rid of this wrapping. Made in Thailand. Good work, boys. So, we've got two tyres here. One is a 2.75 17, right? And the other one is from our friends at V Rubber. All right, and this one is a 3.00. So this is the rear and this is the front. All right, now a lot of tyres have, there we go, that's the tyre I'm using. I'll show you that, I'll put you as a picture of that in the description. Okay, take that knife away so we don't damage anything. So some tyres have a direction of travel. These do not. These are just a standard U-boot anomaly for the Postie. Okay, so we're not going to get too excited there. What I am going to do though is gently, you can see in here, look at, there's a whole heap of rust in here. So I'm going to gently get that with the wire brush, just ever so gently. I don't want to go too crazy, but I don't want to have to. I just want something nice for that to seat on. So we're going to switch to our wire brush. So we've got our trusty wire brush. Now, if you're in the bush, you need to make a plan for that. Scrape it out, do whatever, but you know, you're just going to make a plan. I'm not too excited about scratching these rims up. This stuff's pretty hardcore. I just don't care that. Seeming we're not in the bush and I've got the time, I'll try and protect these rims as much as I can, as opposed to I'm scraping around the bench. I'll put these 2 bits of timber down. Yeah, it's a lot more friendly for the tyre. So I'm just going to go around here and wire brush this edge. I'm not getting too wound up about it. I'm just getting rid of the surface. I'm just getting rid of the surface rust. And anything that's going to cause a problem for the inner tube. There we go. Now, some of that's pretty cranky. I'm just going to give that a bit of a lube up. Look at all that chrome and junk that came off there. So I'm not going to spray that all over it. I'm going to spray it on the rag first. And then I'm going to wipe that up. I don't want that stuff everywhere. I'm just trying to help preserve that a little bit. That will sit inside there and preserve that a little bit. This is just a standard, you know. I don't get too out of shape with these lubricants. I'll just put on whatever I think is good. That'll also help the tyre slip on a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now we're going in reverse. We're going to put this on. A lot of people tell me, oh, you can put oil on there, you can do this, you can do that. I just haven't found the oil helpful, or the grease, or the, you know, there's lube you can get. Yeah, great. But, you know, I've just found you're in the bush, all of a sudden you end up with rocks everywhere. The best thing for me is the easiest and cleanest way. That way you don't get any trouble when you go to put it. You don't get any rocks and what have you in there. So this is just, I just do this very, very systematically. I just So I'm using the fat end there. Sometimes using the fat end there sometimes to get a bit more purchase. And then now I'm back in with the small end. Right. There we go. And that one's over. So that doesn't have to be the hardest thing in the world. You just, finagle it down just a little bit at a time, work your way around the tyre. Now we're looking to put the inner tube in. So, inner tube. There we go. Now this has the 2 threads. So we're going to take that off and the top thread. We're going to make sure the bottom thread, we're going to make sure the bottom nut, not thread, is all the way down. Okay. Now, done this before where I pumped this up first to test that it actually doesn't have a leak in it. I've never had one with a leak in it. For today's exercise, it's too painful because I'm going to get the air back out of it. So now we go in reverse. I don't put any air in this yet because we need it nice and the least pumped up it is, the better it is, the easier it is. So we sneak that in there. All right, and then our first priority is to get that in that hole in there and get it in the hole in the, let me get the nut on. So it just, there we go, beautiful. So I'm pulling that and I'm just checking. I'm checking here all the time that this is in a nice spot. All right, so I'm just feeling with my hands. That's in a nice spot. It's not being pulled in a crazy direction. Then I'm just gently going to put this nut on. I'm not going to do it on up all the way. All right, so I'm putting that nut on now. I'm not going to tighten it up just yet. So this next bit's all about nice and easy. Okay. So you can see there it wants to be out a little bit more. I'll pull that out. It's not quite sitting right because this is not all the way in yet. So now we just work our way around. Just laying it in nice and gently. You think it's not going to fit, but it will. Just work your way around, take your time. This is like, we're not racing anybody. Worst thing you can do is rush this. All right, get that fit in there. Get it all laid out nicely. Try and make sure it's not kinked or overlapping. And eventually you'll get to a point where you go, oh, yeah, it's sitting pretty nice. All right, and then we want to sneak that down inside to get that inside the rib. All right, there we go. Get that out the way. Get that out the way. Now we're sneaking. We're going to go down inside the rim. This has got a bit of stretch to it too. I've seen people stretching these with their feet and stuff, but yeah, the cleaner you have all this, the better. What I've found normally that happens is little rocks and stuff get caught inside when you're trying to do this in the bush, right? So now, I just give this a bit of a bounce around. All right, and I just have a bit of a look. You'll find it kind of almost pumps up a little bit just by getting stretched out like that. So there's a bit of a kink over here. I'm just bouncing that around. Just having an eyeball of where that tube is down in here. Right, and I'm just making sure that it's not resting on any one part of the tyre. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push this. I'm going to push the inner tube out of the way with my fingers first, right? And then I'm going to make sure that against here, the inner tube is not, the tool is not impacting the inner tube, right? Let me get my fingers out of the way as well, right? So I'm pushing that out of the way, with my fingers and making sure the inner tube is not in the way. Now, it's important to try and make sure that my tool doesn't slip down, right? So just for the first bit, that's where we're gonna go, right? Now I can kind of see where the inner tube is, right? I can see where that inner tube is now, and I can see the hole there, I can see the gap. So now, I'm just working my way around, right? And I can still see that the inner tube is down there out of the way. Right, so we're just gonna give that a good wide berth, and I'm gonna run this around like that, Now I can still see that inner tube, and I'm getting to a point where it's really gonna work the tyre, right? No, not yet. I'm around here, I'm a bit nervous about that inner tube there. Gonna make sure it's out of the way. There we go, that one's out of the way. Inner tube's out of the way. Just gonna get just enough so it flips this tyre over the rim here. You can watch it, it's going. There we go, it went. Alright, so now, wangle my tool out. And now this is a gentle process again on this 45 here, right? And I'm making sure I'm feeling on the inside that the inner tube is out of the way of where I want to put the tool. Just with my finger there, right? So here I am, there's no inner tube there. Oh, yes there is. Right, then there's more of the tyre on, right? Okay, so we've sorted out our tyre and now back onto our rim and pumped it up. We've checked everything, it's going really well. That stayed pumped up and that's great. So we're going to go in the reverse now and put the tyre back on the bike. So it's fairly straightforward. We're just going to put this hub back on, make sure there's no junk or rocks and bits and bobs back in there. This is the brake pack. We're going to make sure that's okay. Yeah, it's a bit agricultural, you don't have to get too excited about it, but we're going to just gently rest that back in there. Now on this side there's a bush. If this seal here is pretty good, you don't really have to worry about that bush coming out. Just make sure there's no junk in there. We're just going to sit our bush back in there, right? And then we're going to just gently bring our bike up, bring the wheel back in here, and we're just going to get that rolled back in there, and we need to locate this groove on the groove of the fork. So sometimes you can do this on the ground, you can just get the bike up high enough like that and spin that like that. And I'm being careful on this side to make sure that bush is still properly located, which is good. So that's all good. Now I've got the pin here again, the axle. So I'm just gently, if you have to whack or bash any of this, you need to go back and have another think about it. Put that nut on. I don't lean up on this nut with the spanner, with the rattle gun or the spanners just yet. I'll just leave it all loosey-goosey because it wouldn't be the first time I've had to take the wheel back off after I've done that. So now we just go in reverse of what we did before. I like to do the accelerator cable first, so I'll throw that back down through there, back down here. Now there's a small blade drive here that we need to be keeping an eye out for. And we just try and just spin the wheel. You can see down in here that blade drive spins. We're just going to get that so it matches up. Pretty well there, matched up there. And then I just spin that. Give it a bit of courage on spinning it to get it to, there we go, got it. They mesh and locate and in we go. Back in with our locking screw for that. Happy days, bring back our brake cable. Get that seated back in. Oops. Can't put it on place. Make sure it goes back through that guard. Do that locating there. Put that on there. Get that done up to a certain point. Right, but just leave that a little bit loosey-goosey for now. Then we're going to come back with our spring. Make sure our boot's in the right spot. Put our spring back on. Put this back on. Put the lever back on there. There we go. Now we've got the dots that are normally marked on these. What I've found is if you just get a little M8 spanner, you can adjust the little brake, the actual spline, and just get that to turn into the right spot. Give it a bit of finesse with that. Again, we're just trying to make sure we line that up, get the front and back splines lined up. So, okay, we're one tooth out. So we're going to come back off to the middle. Just drive that around ever so slightly. Oh, I missed it again. There it is. Beautiful. Sometimes you got to give that a little bit of a tap to get them to pop through. Yep, beautiful. Now we're back in with our bolt. That retaining lock on. Get that started. Come in with our M10, which is not that one. There we go. Do that up, and we can come back quickly, and we'd have to take this for a ride and check the brakes, or just check them here, but we'll just get that nipped up. That should roughly be in the right spot where we were before, and we'll probably need a second, we'd need a second spanner to check those, but then we can check the brakes and what have you, but that's it. That's changing the rubber on the front tyre. So I hope that helped somebody. Have at it.